The oppression of the Australian people, or should I say the older Australian people. While the winds of change are blowing and the cruise ships bump from coast to coast around Australia and around the rest of the world, never allowed to enter harbours or berth, Australian people themselves and the rest of the world are living constantly now in the valley of the shadow of death, and the shadow is dark and oppressive, not helped as the virus threat is played over and over in the media. However, the media turns it to and us and them, to an us and them scenario, so that people cannot feel for those they keep seeing on the screen. In reality, the actual deaths of the people and the nightmare of those who lose those who love is happening traumatically without the families even being able to touch those they are losing. This is tragedy and heartache at its worst. I am now glad that my mother died 18 months ago when she was 88 years old. As it was, at least I could touch her while and before she died and afterwards. At least there was some kind of comfort in the touch and presence of being with those who were dying, and closure to couple with the grief that occurred. Those who are losing their partners, children or parents at this point in history are not able to touch them as they die or after they die. I remembered that way back, Mother Teresa in the old days, Mother Teresa the famous nun, opened a home for the dying in her time as a nun, and she wanted no one to die alone. She felt it was wrong, and she wanted to be there for those dying poor in the squalor of Calcutta in India. They were dying on the streets, and nobody cared. So she got a van and picked them all up and took them to hospital, and eventually she founded a home for the dying, so they would not be alone as they die. So there was some comfort for the very, very poor. They had more comfort then than those now, as people die globally, many, yes, old, but also young. This constant bantering about the virus only killing the old seems like a narrative, as the young are also dying, and that doesn't appear to matter that the old are dying, but they do matter. And the government in Australia has lost its credibility by, 1, not caring about the old people who are dying because they are, yes, quote, old. They do not matter, only the young matter. This is the feeling that's coming across. Old people are being discriminated against, I believe, and the isolation is unbearable for them. Even those that have come off cruises or travelled and come back to Australia and they've put them in hotels to quarantine them, apparently they're crying out for help from the rooms and no one's coming to them when they've needed medication and help with their health problems, which people have when they're old. For shame. The Australian government should not be so cold-hearted. They're interviewing a man, the presenter was interviewing a man this morning on the news who was some important person, and they said, do you know that the old are actually suffering and it's not working out that well, putting them in hotels where they have to be isolated for 14 days and they can't look after themselves and nobody's helping them. And he said, oh, well, these are, the costs of, this is the price that has to be paid. And I thought, why are you making the old people the price? Why are you making them suffer? Don't treat them like they are lepers because they're old, or if anyone catches that disease, treating them as lepers. Why are the old people not being cared for? One day there should be a royal commission into this whole area. They say it is to protect the old, but it seems as if they're being herded and shunned as being the target and the blame for the virus at the same time, like a leper. The whole situation has become like a zombie movie. Watch, you don't get that virus. If you do, you will turn into one of them. And people are starting to hate each other or be suspicious of each other. And there's a general not nice attitude of people towards each other. It's a wonder people are not all going out with guns to shoot the old while they're at it, just like those zombies. The movies that you see where they kill off anyone who catches the virus. These are human beings. What about us should be the elderly's mantra now. I have seen daughters of these old people on the news worried in Australia about their very old mother not seeing anyone. She's sitting in the old people's home alone and anxious. She awaits death even if she's not affected, because just of the fact that she's very old, and why would she have anything to live for? The daughter who wants to visit her mother can't because the old people's home won't let her. Oh, it's to protect the old person, but why can't the daughter wear protective clothing and go in? Why is the government bent on being cruel and callous to the old in Australia? Are they trying to just get rid of them anyway? You'll pay for this one day if this is the legacy you intend to put on the old people. And politicians, one day you yourself will be old, and maybe it will happen to you, because how you treat others is what will happen to you in future. Meanwhile, the benevolent Scott Morrison's government and odd-looking Minister of Education has said they will pay for childcare. It's free. Hooray, hooray. Is there a virus infection or not? Why send children to daycare when it kills? If not the children, then those they carry it to. Why do these medical experts, actually who are these silent hidden medical experts, keep saying they are not sure if the virus can be carried by children? Why do they keep making up stories? And if they're not sure, why are they sending them to daycare? First, about the school children. Yes, let's send them to school. Education is important, said the Prime Minister. However, so is living. Indeed, I thought the virus was infectious and deadly, so why give them education when they aren't? There's no use being educated if you're dead, and there's a risk of dying anyway. Similarly, we are told you can go to the hairdressers. Do Australian women put their hairstyle above the need to live? First, only for a haircut, which was in half an hour, that's all you can do. Up to you can go for 2-hour hair colour and treatment if you want. Well, at least the hairdressers are making money, even if they end up dying, or the people whose hair they're doing. And as I was sitting outside a hairdresser's in my car one day, and the people that were going in to get the hair done were old people, older women. And I thought, now this is funny. How ironic. What are these stories? Either the virus is real or not. Is it infectious or not? No wonder the youth cannot take this seriously, because apparently neither is the government. Rather, it seems to be an exercise in how much can I control and manipulate the population by the political leaders here. And the cold-heartedness is shocking. They appear to be the politicians, leaders and medical so-called experts, appear to be making up propaganda to get people used to being told what to do and where they can or cannot go. And this is also oppression of the Australian people and the rest of the people in the world. The government sees fit to tell all people that they must not meet together now more than 2 people. First it was up to 200, 100, 550 people, then 10, and only 10 can go to a funeral. Now only 2 people, and you have to keep 6 foot apart. The Premier of New South Wales is like an old school teacher telling the children, you are doing very well, now don't start being naughty again. It is seen as a joke by not just the young people, but also the adults who are getting tired of all the stories, albeit lies, since surely the truth would be more consistent. People, many have lost their jobs and incomes, and the Prime Minister says he'll inject this much and that much money, not explaining that after it's all over there, maybe 6 months' time, there'll be no money for anyone since the government will be nearly bankrupt. Adding insult to injury, the police are brought in as the new thugs on the street who will arrest you if you are more than one person, more than one person. If you sit on the beach, if you're eating on a park bench, different rules for each state of Australia, of course. We will send in the military to make sure you do not go out of your house. And then I just saw an invasion of privacy, that they're going to check people's mobile phones and just see where they've been with their mobile phones so they can know where the virus went. This seems like more an operation of control than about the infectious virus. In fact, it's something to make Australians dob each other in for, I saw that person go out, so they would be too scared to do anything. And this reign of fear, like a Stalin reign of fear, reign of terror thing, it's really, affecting people, affecting their mental health. But the government doesn't seem to care. How weird, they're so strict on their own people at the same time. Let the cruise ships into the Strait Sydney port the other week, the Ruby Princess, without isolating those on them straight away, rather hiding it and sending them out on the public transport so they all went to different parts of Australia, spreading the virus. So the government's actually spreading the virus now, and they don't care. The Premier of New South Wales does not ring true when she's allowed this to happen. Almost, it seems, to infect the rest of Australia. Why do they do the opposite? They're instigating laws to protect the Australian people, at the same time letting the virus go in. The Premier of New South Wales has also lost credibility. The politicians are playing some kind of game to control and frighten their people, so the police have now become oppressive. For shame, Australia, I thought you were better than that. I thought you believed in equality. Too bad about the old people, they have lost their rights. About the freedom of speech and freedom and autonomy of the people to do as they wish within reason. Now you treat your people like criminals for wanting to go to the shops. You didn't need to send police to treat them as if they had broken the law. When you told parents to send children to school and daycare, and the adults are fined and imprisoned for going outside, it is laughable, the contrariness, if it's not so awful for all those who are suffering now. On the ABC News the other night, the presenter asked the New South Wales Commissioner of Police, do you think if this goes on for a while, people might start getting upset and retaliate out of anger, out of their distress? Oh, he said, casually, things might not change even after the virus is over. Well, not all things. Some things might stay the same. I.e., I guess he meant the new powers the police have. So he's pretty happy about that. It's to protect the people from dying, he said casually. Again, the same narrative. But it no longer rings true. It is not just to protect the people from dying. It is to give the government further power over its people as well. It's got a two-pronged purpose, this virus. By making Australia a police state and controlling its people, Yes, they are dismantling our free society under the guise of the protection of the people from a sickness, and some swallow the stories. Others are getting angry. Not the people going to the hairdressers, sorry. They are very happy and glad the government cares enough to give them the chance to get a haircut, hair colour, and a virus at the hairdressers without being arrested. Wake up, people, there's more going on here than a virus. Many conspiracy theories abound, but the one about the 5G network starting up in Wuhan, launched in November 2019, linked to the virus,